So we're going to do another video for you today. This time we're going to be using one of our new dies. This is the Flora die that we're going to be using, along with some of our recent releases of stamps. So let's have a look at the list. So we've got the Flora die, which is roughly 5 by 7, makes a really good background die. And then we have the Infinity stamp. We're actually just going to be using the sentiment off here, the birthday wishes sentiment. We are using the butterfly off One Day at a Time, but if you haven't got this set, you can more easily use the butterflies that are in the Infinity set. And then we are also going to be using some of the leaves from the Leaves and Foliage stamp set. We're also going to be using Distress Oxides, and they are in Carved Pumpkin, Mustard Seed and Squeezed Lemonade. We're using Versamark Embossing Pad, the white embossing powder. We'll be using our sticky glue, which comes in the 2 sizes, 120ml or 30ml, and our blending brushes. So let's have a closer look at these stamps and dies. Let me take this one off here. Here we go. So this is the Flora die. We've just recently launched 6 new background dies. So they're, as I say, roughly 5 by 7. They're so easy to use. The one thing I will tell you, and I'll probably mention this again, when you're using the larger dies, rather than putting them through your die cut machine completely straight as this, put them in a slight angle so that it's not grabbing it all on one straight line as it goes through the roller. It's got a contact point rather than the strip, and it just makes it easier to cut. And hopefully we'll cut in 1, maybe 2 passes, depends how thick your cardstock is and the pressure on your machine. Every machine is completely different. So we're using the Leaves and Foliage. We're just going to be using a couple of these just to do around the edges of the sentiment, and then we're just going to use this butterfly on here and cut it out on vellum. And then, as I said, we're just using the birthday wishes sentiment out of the Infinity stamp set. I'm just going to pop this off to one side and move all of this up and out of our way so that we can get started. So this looks scarier than it is. We have a strip of vellum. Now our vellum is 2.5 inches by 8 inches. It's just so that we've got enough to wrap round, and it will make sense in a few minutes. We then have a scrap piece of vellum. I keep all my little pieces. This is just to stamp our butterfly on and be able to emboss and cut it out. I haven't got my die cut machine here. I have already pre-cut our die just because it's easier. My machine, my table wobbles, as you all know, so it just wouldn't have been much fun trying to cut it on the camera. We then have a piece of white cardstock. This one is 5.25 by 7.5 inches. We also have another piece. This would be white. I've done 3 inches already, or 3 sides already, just so that you can see, but the whole thing would normally be white. And then we're just going to finish this off in the video for you. And then I've taken an 8 by 8 card and I've just cut it down. As you're well aware, 8 by 8, my 8 by 8 cards are not 8 by 8. The envelope is the 8 by 8, so they're slightly smaller than an 8 by 8 envelope. So this, all I did was cut the width down, so I cut it to 5.5 inches, and then the card is 7 by 7/8 already. So we're going to pop these, and then this would be the piece that I would use. Just keep your old offcuts, the pieces that you've just used a little bit off the edge, and this is what I would use to die cut my background die, my Flora die. So let's get going here. So as you know, I do it as I'm going, and I layer them up as I'm going. Now, I prepped this last night, so my ink has had time to dry on here, so we may end up with a little bit of a mark here, but I'm not going to lose any sleep over it. So I've got my Carved Pumpkin ink, and all I'm going to do is rub that along the edge there. Now my inks are getting a little bit dry. I either need to treat myself to some new ones or re-ink them. Some of them I've re-inked. So, and then I'm just going over the top with my blending brush, and that just stops the chalky lines appearing, because Oxides can give you that chalky line and it's not always what you want in your image. So, and then I'm just clearing up my excess there. So that's your first layer, and that would be stuck down onto your base card. Your next layer is the piece that we're going to be blending. So I always have a piece of tissue paper or something, a cloth or something, so that I can hold it down and not get my oily fingers on the image as we're blending it. So all we would do is we are going to, we'll start at the lighter colour and work up to the darker. So taking our blending brush, and we're just going to go in about 1/3 of the way up. And I always give myself my line across. The lovely thing about these blending brushes is if you're not brilliant at blending, they can be quite forgiving. They're not too harsh. And if you work off and then come onto your cardstock, it will make life a little easier for you as well. But they are a little bit more forgiving. They take a little bit longer to blend your backgrounds because they don't load as much ink onto them as the sponges do, I found, but I still really enjoy doing them. So we would just keep blending that over and over until we got the colour we wanted. I would spend longer on this than I am right now. You just don't want to see me inking this all the way along. Now my brushes, I just use yellows. I have a yellows brush. So I'm just taking my piece of kitchen paper, wiping off the excess and going in for the next colour. Without sticking my finger in, it might have helped. Again, start off the paper and you're just going to go in about 1/3 again, and I give myself my line. And you would just keep building that all up on top of each other. And you will keep going and keep going and keep going, and I'm just going to quickly go in with my orange just so that you can see what we mean by the blending, because I have already got this finished. And then we would take the orange in there as well. And eventually you will end up with something that looks like so. Now if you are not a perfect blender, and this is a really good way of practicing your blending really, if it's something that you're not hugely confident with, by popping this dye over the top, you don't actually see how well you've blended it, which is really nice. So I'm just going to pop these out of the way because we're done with those for now. And so we'll end up with a piece like so. This piece is slightly, and I mean really slightly smaller. So we're going to lay our dye over the top like this. So as I say, if you're not fabulous at blending, it doesn't matter because it's hidden under here. I am going to just stick this down onto our blended piece. Again, I probably would spend a little bit longer adding a bit more glue than I'm going to right now, but you don't all need to see me sticking this till it's got nothing left. Which is what I would probably do. You get started on this and you're like, oh, I need to do that, and I need to do that, and I need to do that. You don't need me doing all of that. So, and then we're just going to carefully, hopefully without getting covered in glue. There isn't a right and a wrong way, but I like it a certain way. So we're just going to layer that on there and just lightly press that down. Get rid of any excess glue that's on the mat. And on you. And that's that piece done. So we've now done our 2 layers. This I need to make sure is completely dry because I'm going to go in with Vellum, and water are not friends. So we're going to take our banner, and I've got glue on my nail. I'm going to take the banner and we're going to stamp with our Versamark ink. Birthday messages. I think my Versamark's getting a little bit dry, so I could probably do with treating myself to another one. And just press that on there and just hold it down in place for a second. Don't press too hard when you're stamping words, because you will push the ink out to the sides. You don't want to do that. And now, depending how confident you are with your stamping, you can do one of 2 things. You can leave it as it is because you don't have to rush to get the embossing powder on there, or you can pop some embossing powder on now at this point so that you can see where it is, and you give it a good flick. Just pop that back in the pot. And then we're just going to give ourselves our foliage around this sentiment. Lots and lots of ink on there just to make sure it all inks up nicely. I'd normally tell you, don't take your stamp to your ink, take your ink to your stamp. And I just broke the cardinal rule. So I'll do as I'm told. I just, oh, don't want to stick my finger in there really. Just going to build this up, and I am just going to pick up a little bit off the edge there because I don't want too much on there. And spin that round. You don't have to go right to the edges because these edges are going to be tucked around the back. So just make sure you've kind of filled in around the sentiment. Remember what I said, take your ink to your stamp, not your stamp to your ink. Oh, it's me being lazy, look. Because I'm just using the little bits on the ends here. I was cheating, but do as I'm told. So then we've got that all inked up as well. And as I said, because it's on vellum, it's not going to soak in, so you don't have to panic and rush to get this embossing powder on like you would rush more if you were using the Versafine, not the Versamark, so the coloured Versafine ink. So then we're just going to sprinkle our white embossing powder over the top and give it a good flick. And hopefully we are all fairly covered. A little bit down there I missed, and then we're going to pop this back in the pot. You'll find that the white embossing powder is slightly coarser than the clear embossing powder, but it still gives really picks up all the really fine detail and still gives you some dimension, which is what I like about this one. So I'm going to heat the vellum. Now when you heat vellum, hold it in the air to allow the heat to travel through, and then hopefully you won't burn it. So just give me a couple of seconds to heat this up. Again, mind your fingers, it gets really hot. And as you do this, move your heat gun along fairly quickly as it melts. End up with this. So we've got our birthday wishes. I'm then going to, then I would be stamping out my butterfly, which I've already done, onto our scrap piece of vellum. Keep all your little pieces of vellum like this because it's ideal for doing this kind of thing. And all I've done with this is I've stamped and embossed with the white the same as I've done the banner, and I've then flipped it over and I've coloured the ink, just scribbled the ink on the back and then cut it out. I didn't spend hours cutting his antennae out. I think there's more to life than that. So I've just basically folded in at his body, and then I'm going to take a kebab stick and give that a little bit of shape. Don't go too hard because it is quite a thick piece of embossing on here, and you don't really want to break it off. So we will end up with something like so, with a little bit of dimension to it. Go to get the dimension to show you. See that? And then we'll pop these out of our way and we can build this card up. It's quite a quick, easy card to do, but it's really quite nice. I really like the finish of this. So we are then going to stick our base one down. Just because it's then out of our way. Again, trying to do that without being able to see is not the easiest. So there we go. That's the base, our first layer down. Then we're going to take this piece and our sentiment, and we're going to roughly centre it where we want it to be, hold it in place, and then just wrap that around, hopefully getting your sentiment on there straight. So we'll end up with something like so. Your sentiment is wrapped. You can position that wherever you want it to be. I'm going to go roughly there, I think. Yeah, because then you can get all the colours in there. I'm going to flip that over, and then I just want to stick my vellum down here just to keep it in place where I want it to be. So I'll just pop a little bit of glue on the back here underneath the vellum, and then stick those down, and just again make sure it's where you want it before it holds in place. Okay, and then it's entirely up to you what you do next, whether you pop this onto some foam pads, which you can easily do, or if you just want to lay it flat straight down on the card. That is entirely your choice. Again, I'm going to go straight down on the card just to be quick. As I said, I don't know where the time goes when I'm making these demo videos. We are now 16 minutes long, which I suppose isn't bad for making a card, but for doing a sitting watching a video we could start to get a bit too long. So we're going to pop that on there. Again, try and get it as centred and as straight as you can, and press that down. And then all I'm going to do is pop a little bit of glue on his body of our butterfly and put that in place. And it's as easy as that. Hopefully you like this card. I have done it in another colour just so that you could see what it was like in the pink as well. I really like this card. I think it works really well with this particular die, but it works with all of our background dies. They're all roughly the same size, so I think it's a really nice combination. So let's have a look back again at what we've used. I put everything somewhere safe and I can't find what I've done with it. There we go. So we used our Flora die, and we've used Infinity stamp just for the sentiment. We've used the leaves and foliage to add around the banner, and we've used the butterfly from One Day at a Time. The colours we used today were carved pumpkin, mustard seed and squeezed lemonade. We've used the Versamark ink. We've used our blending brushes. We've also used our white embossing powder and our sticky glue that comes in the 2 sizes. And some ideas on some other things. Oh, sorry, you got my arm in there again. So just a few other samples that our amazing design team have done for us. So this one is using the Infinity and the Flora die again. This is the one I've just showed you. And then again, this is just another one with different colours. So this one I believe was broken china, carved pumpkin and twisted citron. This one has been done onto die cut twice. So we've got the white die cut, and then behind it has been die cut in a purple and offset, and then a sparkly paper behind instead of the blended sheet. And again, another blended one, but with die cut out in black. This is our Say Hello stamp set as well. And in the background there, we've also used the Spirals DL stencil. This one has been done again in black with a multicolour in the background, and the thank you, I believe, is from our Flora Reason stamp set. Oh no, not the Flora Reason stamp set. I think that one is actually from one of the latest releases. Off the top of my head, I can't think what it is, and I think it is this Say Hello, but don't hold me to that. And then another one using the die as a layer, and this one is using the Flora Reason stamp, and the sentiment on there I believe is from the fragrance sun stamp. And last but not least, this one's just the opposite to what we've done. So it's a coloured frame, a coloured die cut, and a black solid underneath. So hopefully you've all enjoyed this particular video. Look how rosy my cheeks have got in here today, it must be warm. Again, I'll just give you a quick sneak at what we've just done. So this is what we ended up with. I hope you've all really enjoyed it. You can contact us if you have any questions on honeydewcrafts@gmail.com, or you can email us, you can contact us through our Facebook page, or you can contact us through our website, which is on the bottom of the screen. If anybody's got any questions, please feel free to shout or ask or call us, whatever is easiest for you. Hope you've enjoyed the video, and we'll see you again soon. Bye.